let's say I'm studying leaves. Let's say I'm studying leaves and I want to get a drawing of a leaf and I'd like it to be accurate. I'd like it to be life size. How do I go about that? Well, I'm glad you asked. What I'm going to do is take the leaf. I'm going to start off just by tracing it. Now, if I try to trace this leaf and like that, it keeps moving, right? Oh dear, that's not very helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my leaf down and I am going to just lightly draw around the edges of it, not following all those little kind of bumps and wiggles. I'm making a very, very faint line. And on one side of this little stem, or the petiole, I'm going to make a little line. And so I've got, oh, it's so faint you can't even see that. Oh, yes, you can a little bit. There's this little line. I'm going to strengthen it a little bit so it makes it a little bit easier for people to see, but not so much that it becomes a nuisance to me later in drawing. So I've got a really light little ghost of that line on my piece of paper. All right. Now, this very quickly gets the general shape, and we'll deal with in just a moment. What do you do when it's not flat? Rum, bum, ba. All right, but first we're going to deal with this one. And so now it's got this serrated edge all the way around it. And I want to start drawing this thing. So I am going to begin to put in details. I've got a ballpoint pen here. And I am going to just come up here. And as I make a line up here, now actually kind of making lines is an interesting thing. So you notice that here are two nice little neat lines evenly spaced apart, right? That alone, there's a little trick behind that. You ever drawn your stem of your leaf and you kind of have this side here and then you have this side here and you're like, ah, right? I want it to be evenly spaced and nice and smooth. So how do you do that? So what you're going to do is you're going to hold your hand, you're going to put your hand down, the side of your hand on the piece of paper, and just sort of notice like this, I can easily make kind of finger arcs or with a little wrist movement here. If I don't really move my hand, I can get these sort of sets of parallel lines. The minute I move my hand to a different position, the natural kind of curve of my hand is going to make lines at a different angle. So what I did is I did this. I did one line. I didn't move my hand, right? And then did another line without moving the side of my hand. And that helps me make these sort of sets of parallel lines. I'm now going to try to get this main vein coming up here, up the middle. And it's going to aim towards that point up there. And so what I want to do is I want to get a straight line. And if I'm doing it with my fingers, I can make a line about that far before I have to lift my hand again. But here I want this to, and if I stitch together a few lines, it kind of often looks like I've stitched together a few lines. So what I'm going to try to do is back up here, back up. Come on, back up. Nope, wrong way. Oh, I did it this way. Right, I'm going to turn this out here. Right, see my elbow is on the ground here. I am going to be making an elbow arc like this. And when I do that, I'm going to be able to make on my piece of paper a nice straight line. Ooh, right? And so Notice it's going to be in a little bit, not a perfectly straight line. It's going to be a little bit curved. And if I want that to be, if this is curving this way, if I put the paper this way, then if there is a little curve in it, it's going to be kind of going in the direction that I want this to be heading. So I am kind of clearing, I'm going to sort of move my hand a few times, move my paper so that it's the right angle. If I have to have my hand at a weird kinked angle, it's going to make this line screwy. But if my arm is sort of straight pivoting like this, I'm going to be able to make nice, smooth lines, right? So I'm just moving my paper to where that's going to be nice. And I'm going to kind of start here, and I'm going to get lighter as it comes out there. So I just took the pressure off, and now another set inside of that, this one even lighter, and I let it. So what I end up with is this nice thing. And just ignore these sort of dark smudges. Those are the snake from a previous page kind of leaking through. So that's why there are those extra dark marks. So that's not part of this drawing demonstration. So, so you see how that gave me this nice little straight line, and it gets more indistinct towards the tip because this line gets more indistinct towards the tip. And if I have that line go bold all the way out to the end, it looks really cartoony. Isn't that neat? So there's a way of just sort of making straighter lines. And now I'm going to put in some of these serrations around the edge. Now, fortunately, I have the overall shape already figured out. And now I'm going to put in the little teeth. So notice small teeth, medium teeth, big teeth. And notice that these teeth are pointing out in this direction. These teeth are pointing out in this direction. And these teeth are pointing out in this direction. That's way too much for my brain to handle at once, right? So if I start going around this, putting in teeth, what I tend to do is kind of get something, and it's gonna well, yeah, I kind of like it in there, but no, not there. Oh, I didn't like that. Oh, but yeah, that part was working. I want it to work all the way around. But if I'm thinking now it's got to be small, now I've got to go to medium. Oh, no, and then I'm thinking about the size, and I'm forgetting to change the direction. Again, my brain doesn't like to handle two things at the same time. So maybe yours does. You're lucky. Keep that brain. But mine doesn't. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do this in a few little stages. Right, so out here on the bottom, there's kind of a nice little curve down. And then look at this. I'll zoom in on this even more so you can see it more easily. All right, look at that. Those little curves. There's a big side and a little side, big side and a little side, and they are generally pointing off in this direction. So I'm going to turn my piece of paper so that the natural curve of my hand is going to be in the same direction as those long axis of those. That's going to make making those sort of marks a little bit easier. All right, so here I go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw just in this area a few of these. I'm concentrating on a big side. Now in here, it's starting to turn up this way. So I'm going to stop for just a second and say to myself, okay, now we're going to be turning, and we are going to be pointing more, or points more up this way. All right, and I can actually come in several places, like over in here. Let's just sort of hold this down here. I want bigger curves now. I want bigger bumps. Boom, 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 boom. Right? So I can, over in this area, big side, small side, big side, small side, big side, small side. Right? And over in this area, there's going to be one big one at the tip here. Right? And then what are we going to have off on the sides of that? It's going to be They're pointing out this direction. And now I've got these guys, and these guys. And what I'm going to do is just kind of come around and I am going to connect those. And so that helped me kind of by thinking of them at like this zone, this zone, this zone, kind of getting, oops, let me back out so I could point out those zones. So I dealt with and thought about this area differently than this area here, than this area here. And it allows me to kind of get those angles of those little sawteeth people. And you notice it's not totally even, right? It's not mathematically even. But if you take a close look at the leaf, neither is the leaf. Was it on purpose? Was I actually drawing this one right here? No. But it just kind of, you get some sort of regular irregularity into it, and it will look a little bit more natural. But I've got these generally pointing off this way, this way guy's this way, this guy's this way. So that helped me kind of get some of those teeth in. Because this is such a symmetrical leaf, what I did over here is I just drew in half my leaf. I can go do that same thing for the other side if I want to. But in this case, I'm not going to, because it would just be a repetition of the same ideas. You can do that if you want. But now I'm going to just pivot over to playing with these veins. I mean, look at those veins. Aren't those cool? Oh, man. They probably think the song is about them. So let's take a look at this one. So it's going to come off at an angle here, and then it's going to go up steeply to there. This one is going to come off here. Now, if I have a leaf drawn, and I start kind of drawing in veins, I often find myself kind of sort of putting them in about where I think they should be, and then the spacing gets all kind of wonky, and I'm going like, oh dear, that's sad. I don't like it when that vein came out there. And then there's not room for putting in all these cool things, and oh dear, it's just, eh. So is there a way I can be more accurate and precise with putting in these veins? And I'm glad you asked. Well, yes, there is. Check this out. Check this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my leaf back in here, and I am going to see this little junction right there. I'm going to hold my pencil over that spot, and then I move my leaf, and I'm going to put in a little dot. Oh, you see what I'm doing here? I'm going to pull this back over there, and where is it going to go? It's going to go up in here. It's going to go up there. So it's going to go roughly in here and there. And look at that. I now have that leaf because I gave myself a couple of little anchors. And how did I do that? Because I'm doing this life size. I can just hover this over here, move my leaf, and then put my dot down. And that places my vein. And let's try this up here. Look at this. I can go up here. Oh, what about you, little vein? Right? You're going to start somewhere in here. I could go like, oh, it's roughly in there. I could get something and measure it and then bring it up that way. Or I could just hover my little pencil here and go like, oh, up. Let's try that again. Ooh, okay, right in there. And which direction is it going to go? It's going to go roughly that way up to here. So it's going to go roughly out in here, right? And what about this last one on this side? It's roughly in there, and it is roughly going up this way. So I've just put in these little guidelines showing me where those bad boys go, right? What about this one? Oh, it's going to go somewhere over there. Yeah. All right. So, and I can do that with some of the minor veins if I want to. Isn't that cool? So the leaf can tell you where all those veins go. And I put them in with a light pencil. So I've just got a, this is normally I'd be using my non-photo blue pencil, but I've discovered the non-photo blue pencil doesn't really show up very well on these video demonstrations. So I'm using a mechanical pencil here. I put some purple lead into it just because it looks cool. And now I can come along here and say, all right, this vein, you're going to come here. I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to get lighter and let it go. And it's going to come thick in here. And I want to sort of think of like my hand can make a good arc in this direction, so I'm not going to be getting into some weird kind of cramped hand position. And I can come in here and get that lighter. And in here, can I make that line? Yep. What about there? And over here, I'm going to turn. See how I was starting to draw like this? See that kind of, I'm going to back up. Bonk. See this kind of weird turn in my wrist? Sometimes I find myself, I'm drawing like down here and my lines aren't kind of working because I've got this contorted position of my wrist. It's going to be easier to kind of, now I'm in my happy drawing position. So I can keep myself in my happy drawing position by turning my paper around, right? Now I am in a place where I can easily make little smooth lines that kind of come out this way. And let's count these. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So these are going to come out there. So it's allowing me to map my way around this leaf. When I get off into these sort of small zones, I will just go. Excuse me. Excuse me. I couldn't reach my mute button in time. I tried to mute my sneezes for you guys. Oh, look at this, is cool. These two veins meet, so I'm actually going to draw this little connector in there. I like that. That's cool the way they do that. And oh, whoa, look at this. These ones do too. And is this all the way around? What about here? I can't really see very well in there. Yeah, but some of these guys made little arches. And right, so I'm putting in my veins. And when they get really fine, you have to either not draw them in or just go really, really light. Or if you're using a pencil, you can go to a lighter kind of lead. But you get these leaves that really, they've got that pattern, and you're like, oh, okay, it's very satisfying little thing. Now you can go around, do that same thing over here on that other side, but notice that as I do this, just that notice that these veins are not coming out opposite each other. That's the sort of detail that I really want to pay a lot of attention to. There's a tendency for us to make them kind of parking lot symmetrical. If you're drawing something like a tan oak, yeah, you get that. All right, or an alder tree, you have these very symmetrical parking lot systems. But on a lot of other leaves, the spacing is not going to be this sort of nice symmetry. Like this side here, the spacing is really different than I'm seeing on that other side. And so I'm going to pay attention to where those come in, where they come in on the other side. Don't expect them just to be like that, or always, if these are like that these ones would always come in with that same spacing. So the answer is in your leaf. All right. Now you can get in there and add your watercolor on top of it. That's fun, right? You've got, so something that's really fun to do is have like a nice crisp pencil drawing and then drop your watercolor on it, or a pen drawing, drop your watercolor on it. The watercolor seems to play very nicely. There's something nice about the looseness of watercolor next to the precision of a clean line. And so I'm just going to sort of show you some strategies in putting the color in. This is where you're going to want to play with your ideas of wet in wet and wet on dry. So I'm going to first put in a background wash on this. And it's interesting, when you have a hard line, you actually can be fairly sloppy with putting in your watercolor, and people will think that you are really precise. Like you look at like, wow, how'd you get it all in the lines? I didn't. But just because there is that kind of crisp black line there, you think I did. But we're going to zoom down there. Let's just go down there and just take a look. And here we go. Like, look at that. Like, see, I'm not staying inside the lines, right? But because there is that hard black line, you have from back at this distance the subjective impression that I did, and nobody will look that hard. Look at it, way slopped out over there. Oh no, no big deal. All right, then I'm going to put in color while this is still wet. If I put in this green here, so what I'm noticing that a bunch of these leaves have around the veins there is yellow, and then there is green in the spaces between. Right, but it's got a soft edge. So while this is still wet, I put in some green here, and I can just kind of sort of splashing my green in, and then the edges of that are going to fade out, and on the tips of it I might kind of tap it, a few little dots in there, and then here is more watercolor. And because it's on wet paper, it softens it. And let's see, towards the edge, yeah, the green goes all the way to the edge. Okay, so I'm going to get that to kind of come out to the edges. It's always good to check the leaf and make sure that, like, I was thinking like, oh no, the green's not going to go out to the edge, but it did, so I'm now making it. And any place where the paper is starting to dry, I'm going to get more crisp little lines, but I'm making this sort of jiggly. I'm going to darken my paintbrush here so you can see it. I'm making kind of lines like this sort of jiggly thing. So if any of my marks show up, like in here, it'll feel more organic. But look at those edges all blending together. Ooh, that's nice. So I'm going to let that continue to dry. If your leaf has spots on it that are crisp, I wouldn't put them in while my paint is dry. I'm going to let that leaf dry, and then I'm going to come back with it. Actually, I'm going to be impatient here. I'm going to go hit it with my hair dryer, and so we can kind of keep on with this demo. Now, I don't make up spots to put on my leaf. I like to look at my leaf and see what kinds of spots it actually has. And the But on this leaf, because my leaf is kind of doesn't have really dynamic spots, I want to just show you a few ideas about making spots on a leaf. And so I'm going to make up some spots, but very often the type of spots and blotches, the viruses that get into leaves, they make different kinds of patterns on different species. So the sorts of spots and dots that you get on a specific leaf, it's not just like you're going to put generic spots and bug bites on it, but certain sorts of things will make spots in specific ways on specific species. So the way they look on a bay leaf is different than a big leaf maple, is different than this mulberry. But I'm going to put some generic spots on this, not recommending generic spots, even if they're happy little spots. All right. I'm seeing generally two types of spots out there. You will often find things that have, you'll sometimes find things where there is a dark core, a dark outer part with a nice little crisp edge. And the inner part of that pale. So sometimes some sorts of viruses and things will make spots that are kind of this bullseye effect. And then I'm going to make a few kind of little subspots out here. And look at the sorts of patterns of spots that you really get on the leaves that you're looking at. So not. And then sometimes you actually will get on the very edge of it, a very crisp little extra dark at the edge of those spots. I need to sharpen my brush here a little bit. So sometimes there will be, a real, if we zoom in on that, can we see that better? It's not really showing up on the screen. Maybe I put the light on a little bit better. Another sort of general pattern of spot that you'll see is you'll find in some places there is the outer part is light. And
Can you slide your drawing down a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
The outer part is light, and sometimes you'll also see these spots really kind of constrained by the veins. So sometimes they'll escape over the vein, but sometimes they'll be kind of like making a pattern right along the edges of veins. So look for that and you might see it. So sometimes you'll have a light thing, but when you get to the core of it, that's where it gets darker. Right? And so here I'm doing this wet and wet, giving it soft edges. You also can find other places where you will have that same pattern, but let's say here is this little spot. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to put in a hard-edged dark spot in there. Let it dry a little bit more. That's probably good enough. And that gives you that sort of a sense. And sometimes you will even see that the center of them is very pale. I'm going to just get a little bit of gel pen in there, tap it with my fingers. And so you can get some, a variety of sort of interesting kind of blotches and spots. But again, the sort of blotchy spottiness that you're going to find on a leaf is going to be specific to specific species. So I look for that and I take advantage of it. Sometimes you will also sort of see a mist of small dots that are so hard that they're hard to paint across it. When you get that, you can get away with a little bit of splatter on your page. And if you're doing splatter sorts of effects, you can have splatter of different colors. Right? But do be aware, a little bit of splatter goes a very, very long way. And once you start doing it, it's going to be so much fun that you'll go crazy with your toothbrush and overdo those splatter effects. And people look at it like, oh, you drew a leaf and then hit it with your toothbrush. And you kind of went crazy on that, didn't you? Right? If you do realize that you went a little bit wild on your splatter effects, you can take parts of them and kick them back to a less dramatic state. So here, I can just hitting this with my paintbrush, picking up a little bit of that, and now I have made that more faint. One last really fun thing to do is I'm going to take my, well, I can't if I lose my drawing tools. There it is, it was hiding under a leaf. This is a white gel pen. This is the Uniball Signo. And it's a really nice gel pen. This kind of white gel pen, it allows you to draw white lines, pale lines on a dark surface. And so on these veins, notice that I've got pale veins, right? Here I have black lines, pale veins, black lines. Okay, this kind of represents what I'm seeing, but it's not really true to it. I can come by here and draw over those lines. And you can do it a couple of different ways. You could draw the white line like this next to the black line, in which case it sort of looks like the black line is maybe the shadow of it. Or you could also draw those lines directly on top of that black line, and in a few places that line will show up and through. Notice how it's too harsh and extreme right out there at that end, so I touch it with my fingertip, pick up part of that on my finger, and it gives you a little bit of a fade out with those gel pen lines. If you don't do that soon enough, you can't pick it up anymore. It's water soluble, so if you hit it with your brush, you can then lighten those lines. So let's do that out here. There we go. I'm going to let that dry. Right. Look down here. In some places it feels a little bit too harsh to me, so I'm just going to wipe that a couple of times with my wet brush. It's going to soften those white lines a little bit, and I like that more kind of subtle effect a little bit better. Another thing you can do with these gel pens is, let's say those were yellow veins and you've got a white gel pen, just let your paper dry. Let your gel pen dry. And once it's dry, you can take a little bit of yellow watercolor and tint that line. I now have a yellow line. Yellow vein. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. So you don't need to have a whole fleet of gel pens with you. you basically have one, and it can make a little pale line. And then you can come by and you can turn that into brown, light brown, or whatever color you wish. A final thing I can do on this surface if I wish to. So I'm going to take some gouache. So gouache is like watercolor, but it is opaque. It's more opaque. And so on my palette, I have a zone where I squirt some white gouache onto a sort of a separate mixing area because I don't want this to mix and kind of make these other areas on my palette chalky. But I'll take some of this from my kind of gouache zone. And this leaf is slightly glossy. So I am going to kind of come in here and put a little place where the leaf is picking up. Where the leaf is, let's see, is it better with or without that? A little bit of reflection. And I'll put in some highlights. Gouache, you sometimes have to put down a couple layers for it to really show. If I'm re-wetting it. That just sort of suggests a little bit of sparkle on that. And that allows me to make a leaf. That is, well, I can really record a lot of cool information. And what you can do then is kind of run around, and it makes it fun to go, you find a leaf and you kind of like, oh, that's a cool leaf. I want to play with that leaf. And give yourself a chance to do that. And include whatever kinds of spots it has. This time of year, you'll find really bright, in some places, really bright, intense color changes. So you can just have so much fun putting in a leaf. And then what you can also do is take that leaf and press it in your book. So take that leaf and tape it into your journal, and then you have your drawing of it and you have the leaf. Very often after spending so much time with a leaf, you're going to get bonded with your leaf and you're going to love your little leaf. And so you don't want to say bye-bye to it. You can put it right there in your journal. And it's interesting to see when you first do it, you kind of go like, oh yeah, this is good color matching. And then later on, you'll come back to it and this leaf will have changed color even more. And you go like, oh wow, it no longer matches, but you'll see how those things change over time. That's fun to do. Isn't that cool? That's a little few tricks there to help you draw the leaf in the flatomatic view. Now, let's take it and take a look at what if you have a leaf that's doing, this little kind of curl up thing, that's really cool. And I want to get that in my journal. I've got another edge right here. This is curling up towards me. How do I draw these sorts of effects? My favorite are the views where you have this kind of a thing where you sort of see the leaf curling over like a wave, and you see some of the underside and the top side on the leaf. Let's play with how to suggest that on your leaf drawing and not go crazy. All right. All right, so I am going to hold this leaf in such a place that we're seeing the top and the bottom of it. Let's see what would be kind of a good way to do this. Here we go. And let's say I've got this edge of my leaf over here. I'm just putting in some a very kind of loose anchoring here to I'm going to strengthen that a little bit. So you can see what I have. There's a big curvy part in here. We're seeing some of the under part. See, right in here on this surface, you've got the other side that is flipped over towards you, bomb, right? That's in here, and then you're seeing the bottom side of it here. All right. So how do you handle something like that? I've got a number of places where it's twisting, turning, flipping around. I'm seeing both sides. And then also the leaf it's got these sawtooth edges, right? Now, a sawtooth edge, if you're looking at look here at this kind of clean sawtooth edge, right? The sawtooth edge, you see the sawtooth, but notice when I turn the sawtooth edge up towards you, you don't see the sawtooth. This is really critical to getting this work. So if you ever tried to draw one with a sawtooth edge and it kind of ended up looking funky, this is probably the reason, right? Because where you turn it towards you, you are going to be seeing no sawtooth along that edge that is coming towards you, but everybody wants to draw in the sawtooth. Now we're going to curl this, right? Let's actually zoom down on it and curl, and let's analyze this, right? Look at this. So I'm going to call this hand here, I'm going to call this B, this hand over here, I'm going to call that A. So we're starting at A, we're making a curl over to B, right? We're seeing the same thing. So look over on the A side and you're seeing sawtooth, sawtooth, sawtooth. If you look over on the B side, you see sawtooth, sawtooth, sawtooth. And now look right over here and you notice that in this area, it is coming straight towards you and you don't see the sawtooth. All right. For if you are a leaf drawer, this is a mic drop moment, right? I'm drawing something that's sawtooth all around, but in this area, the sawtooth is actually pointing towards me. I don't see the sawtooth. On the other edge of that, I see a little bit of sawtooth. Over here, I see a little bit of sawtooth. Oh, okay, so there's a pattern here. If I get that pattern, I can make the curl. So I'm going to come around with my sawtooth edge, have it go into less of a sawtooth, into zero sawtooth, right where I'm meeting the back side here. And then as I come around the other way, I'm going to get more into sawtooth. So in a little diagram, what I'm getting is I've got one surface without sawtooth, right? And here's the basic edge that I have. So I'm going to be sawtoothing up this way, and as I get into here, it is going to get less. And now look at the direction of my sawtooth. These sawtooths were pointing this way. What about these ones? Oh, they're pointing the opposite direction, right? These guys are pointing down towards you. These ones are pointing away. So these ones over here start to sawtooth in that direction. Oh, we have just turned the corner with a sawtooth leaf. All right. So right now, Ray Bonto over there in London is making a diagram of this. He's making a diagram in his journal. I'll bet he's doing that because he's always making these little notes. He sees a cool idea and he makes a little sketch in his notes showing what is happening there. So I'm going to suggest that because I suspect he's doing that, that you guys do that too, right? So what we did is we just turned the corner here. So let's go back to this one here and see what it is doing, all right? So we're going to come over, we're going to have a part that's got some sawtooth, when we can get up into some bigger sawtooth, and then in here it is going to, we're going to lose our sawtooth right as we kind of come over here, and then we're going to start to pick it up as we come towards you. And we can make that kind of more of an irregular edge. And now it wants to flip back the other way. So I'm going to go back into no sawtooth until I start to sawtooth back this way. And now I'm going to put on the back of the leaf. So right here in this no sawtooth zone, I'm coming in here. And then I'm going to target that over towards this other no sawtooth zone. And we have just flipped this bad boy around. Booyah! Let's do that one more time, right? I'm going to bring this, I'm going to have another, so we're going to come up here, we're going to have big saw teeth until we kind of get up in here. And then I get to sawtooth this way. And then I'm going to sawtooth this way. All right. That is a place where I have a little leaf edge that is flipping around there. And I may be able to see that far side. I can have that other side of my leaf flipping down this way. You might even be able to see, there's that other side of the leaf, that far side down in there that's curling around. And over here, why is there no sawtooth right here on this edge? Why didn't I do sawtooth all the way over there? Well, that is because this part of the leaf, the sawtooth, is pointing away from you. So here is under surface of the leaf here. How about that, Melinda? I caught myself pointing the wrong direction. Caught myself trying to draw out of the screen. Here's this surface here. That's underside of the leaf. And then here is this surface. So we just turned the corner on a curly leaf. That was crazy. All right. So let's see if there are any, at this point, any, here's one other thing we can do. One other cool thing we can do. I'm going to strengthen some of these colors in here, right? Some of the values, just so that this next step pops out a little bit more. let's say this is our underside of the leaf. Very often the underside of the leaf, it has, it will be a paler green than the top surface of your leaf. What's going on with that is pretty cool. On the other underside of the leaf, there is a layer. You have more of a some of the structure, less chlorophyll on that surface, and that because the surface which we want to have most of your chlorophyll wants to be pointing up towards the um, towards the sun, right? So that underside has less chlorophyll, and there are more sort of a palisade layer of structures that support the leaf. The stiffeners are closer to the underside. So there'll be as often a color change. I'm going to dry this so you're not seeing that gloss, and I'll be right back and show you a cool thing you can do with your gel pen in these areas. All right, one last little trick here, and I think you're going to like it. It is another kind of gel pen foo. Punch, punch. There we go. So let's just take a look at this. The leaf, as flat as it is a three-dimensional shape. The leaf is a three-dimensional shape. It has thickness to it. And when you are looking at the edge here, you actually are going to be seeing some thickness in that. So one thing you can do is when you kind of are in that edge-on view, I will sometimes kind of come along the inside here with my gel pen and just kind of put a little bit of thickness into that edge view. I'm going to do the same thing right here. Right. And that, hold on a second. I'm going to let that dry for a millisecond. So right where it is turning, you're really kind of looking at the edge. I am adding some white highlight right into there on that surface that would be turning towards you. And then I can tint that. Let's make that kind of a lighter green. Or a light yellow green. And that helps you to sort of feel like you're seeing a little bit of the thickness of that edge rolling towards you. I will often do a similar sort of thing if I'm drawing a leaf, and let's say here's a little oval leaf coming towards you and you're seeing it at an angle. This is the edge that is closer to you. I will sometimes take my little white gel pen and right along that edge there, I will just make a little bit of a pale edge that would be catching the light right there in that zone. And so it'd be all darker up here. And there's a little pale edge. How does that look? I'm going to back up here for a second. So you'll see that if you look at a bunch of my drawings, you'll see me doing this a lot. All right, so you see right in here along this back edge of this leaf, I have, whoops, along this back edge of the leaf right in here, on that surface where you're seeing the edge of the leaf, that's white gel pen coming right in there. You see the same thing coming in here on this back edge of this leaf. You see it right here on this back edge of this leaf. Not on both sides, because this says that this is pointing slightly away from you. So on the back edges of those leaves there, let me show you a few other places on other drawings where I'm doing the same thing. Take a look at this. You see this effect? Here's this edge of the leaf that is pointing towards you, and I've just hit it with a little bit of a white gel pen right in there. See the same thing happening right in there. And that just suggests that you're seeing that change in value suggests a change in angle. The change in value suggests a change in the angle. Here on this edge that's pointing right towards you, you see that right there along the part that is all coming towards you. Here I'm not just doing it on a curve because this entire surface is pointing towards you instead of it rolling over and turning flat. If it was rolling, I would do it on part of that is the part that is pointing towards you. So you'll see that if you look through a lot of my drawings, now that you know this, you'll see me like, oh, you do that all the time, right? Oh, bing, bing. Here I didn't do it on this leaf, and this leaf looks flatter. You have a little bit of a paler edge here, and that's slightly turning that towards you. Here on this surface of this leaf, you see that little guy right there? That's just white gel pen on top of watercolor. And cool thing is you can do that with the edge of a petal too. Here's a little larkspur, and along the edge of that petal that I want to be feeling like it's coming towards you more. Check this one. I don't want to get that glare in there. Too much glare on the page. Let me get a different, here's a leaf, and I'm getting a little bit of it on this surface that is turning towards you. On this one right down here, right? You can actually see that's totally a gel pen line there, right? And you even got sloppy with it. Kind of was made a little double line. You're like, I'm going to crank in some gel pen there just to kind of turn that edge towards you. Not on this side because it's pointing away from you, but yeah, on that side because it's pointing towards you. I want that to have a little bit of thickness, right? So that's the gel pen edge. This flower here doesn't have it, and you get the feeling that you're looking flat down on this surface, right? Let me see if there's few other good places that kind of show this trick. By the way, if you're looking for great gifts for the holidays, you can get your friend the Laws Field Guide to the Sierra Nevada, and it's got all sorts of this is shameless product placement, but why not? So this is a field guide that I made to the natural history of the Sierra Nevada. It's all watercolor paintings, and you can see me hitting a bunch of them with gel pen. See those gel pen veins? And then gel pen side of the leaf. You don't see it when you're looking straight down on it, but at a little bit of an angle, you're going to suggest that right in there. All right, my friends, that is a handful of tricks to help you play with drawing leaves. And I hope that you got some useful strategies, and now you can go out and do this. So your homework, of course, is go find some cool leaves. This is like leaf time. So leave no leaf unturned, and get out there, find some cool leaves. When you start walking around your neighborhood going like, I want to find some cool leaves, you will find crazy cool colors, right? And then you get to go play with them, and you're thinking like, you would never get to use that such an intense saturated color anywhere in your nature journal. Where do you find that in nature? Start looking at leaves and you're like, oh, you see this all the time. And then you get to play with it. And it's a nice little kind of constrained thing. It's not overwhelming, like a landscape, I don't even know where to stop. It's a leaf. You can put it on there. Ooh, one last thing. Mad bonus points. You jack a shadow underneath your leaf, and it looks like it's popping off the page. More on that another day. You can play with that, see what you can do, and it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun. I was looking at. You also can with leaves. You can play with all sorts of other sort of fun effects. So here is a leaf that I was drawing, and it's a yellow leaf, so I put the complementary color purple behind it, and it really makes it kind of go. Meh. And then because we did that workshop on textures, I stuck salt into it. So there's salt texture on that purple background. That was fun to do. Why put the salt in? Because it's fun, right? Because you can. That is a bunch of fun strategies that you can play with on your own leaves. So just go have a ball with that, everybody. It's your world, and let's go play in it. Let's go make art, make beauty, and see how much a single leaf can just fill you with delight. Let's turn over to our kind of community cam. We are going to allow you to unmute yourself. And if you want to share a journal page that you've done, perhaps it's notes that you've taken during this course, perhaps it's something you've done over the week. It's been a while since we've seen each other, and so you may have some journal pages that you've filled. We'd love to see some of those. And if you've got any other leaf drawings, doesn't have to be leaves, but let's see. So on my screen, first one up is Ray Bonto. All right. Hey, I missed you, my friend. I hope you've had a good week. It's really good to see you again. I am going to spotlight you, and I'm going to unspotlight myself. Remove spotlight. Here we go. Ray Bonto, it is really good to see you. And I hope you had a safe time over the last few days. We'd love to see what's happening in your nature journal.
It is not my nature journal. Yeah. Well, I don't keep a journal. I keep a practice book and a nature journal. So
Right.
not just one big journal. So like that. I didn't do diagramming as you said. Oh, well, yeah, but
that's great. Great. I see you following along with all the notes. You even got background behind that little sawtooth edge on the one on the left-hand page. Then we're seeing that really cool curl over study on the other side. You're going to have some fun with this, I can tell.
Yeah, I've put some cool leaves with brown bumps in the middle, and some are green, some are red, and some are round.
That will be really fun to do. Evea also pointed out she loves your idea of creating the practice book. That's a really good idea. Then you're not worried about like I'm going to run out of pages in my nature journal, and it gives you just permission to experiment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Let's see what else.
I also once sketched a golden pheasant last week.
Oh, the colors on these birds are just outrageous, aren't they?
Yes.
And the crazy tail, the tail that will not allow you to fit the tail all the way on the page.
Even on the photo I drew from, it didn't fit. That's why I didn't put this out, or I would have drawn it till the page's edge.
Yep. That's so cool. That's cool. And you're really getting a sense of volume in these. I feel like this has weight to it. Like hold that up just still for a second. So everybody kind of look at how the subtle shadow around the chest there gives this a sense of volume and weight. You feel that you could hold this pheasant in your hands, right? Very cool.
Yeah. First, I used colored pencil and then I put watercolor over it.
Good.
Like
Yeah. Mix your media. That's terrific. A lot of pencil I see in the tail. And then the colors, the watercolor then holds those areas where there's kind of more unified color on the bird. You're practicing your color mixing too. Great.
oh yeah, I went sort of crazy over here.
Absolutely. I love your idea of the practice book. It just gives you permission just to go crazy.
I
Yeah.
will just show you something crazy. This book, it's worn out, so now look, it can go like that. Flip back to itself now that this bit is worn out.
Well, it is well loved, well used. There's nothing better to do with a practice book and a sketchbook and journal. These are tools, and we want to use them. And I'm so happy to see you doing that. That's really fun to see. Thank you. And again, it is great to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
had a question.
Yes.
Do you know how to mix perylene green? I don't have it because I use a Winsor & Newton palette. I don't use Daniel Smith as you use.
I think we may have to send you some.
No, I've had a hard time, and I tried mixing it, and I ended up with some muddy green sort of thing.
Yes, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. There are some colors that's just like really fun to have in your palette.
Yeah, some
other dark value things to get something kind of close to perylene green. But the nice thing about the perylene green is you can just kind of reach for that and go.
yeah, I've had a hard time mixing colors like bloodstone genuine, indanthrone blue, and perylene green and stuff like that.
Well, we'll see what we can do about that problem.
Well, I think just wait. You don't have to send it, and don't you dare right now send it, because well, I'll see what I can do about it.
Well, I love that you're experimenting with colors, but we also want to get really useful tools into the hands of people who are making them. And this year, Ray Bonto, you've earned it.
Well, thank you. But anyways, thanks for that Sierra Nevada book and all those stuff.
Absolutely. I hope you enjoy it. And look for those little kind of edges in there. And you'll see us doing that strategy a lot. And really proud of you and the work that you're doing. This is, you've got a lot of respect in this community.
Thank you.
All right. Let's jump over to our gallery view. And Tracy, I'm going to jump over to you and see what's up with your wood duck.
I consider it done. I learned a lot of lessons. I had to change my background. I had like a whole plan for a wash, and then I'm like, it needs more, and then I'm like, it's too much, and I think I finally got to a place of peace.
That's really fun. And the iridescence on the head, you really do get a sense of the wood duck just shines back all of those wonderful colors. And because you're punching in that dark next to those vibrant colors that are shifting there, we get a real sense of the shimmer on the wood duck's head. That's terrific.
Yep, I added watercolor pencil after I did watercolor underneath. And it allowed me to put more like where it spanned the green and the blue or the purple and the blue and kind of bleed into each other. And I felt like that really made them look like feathers.
Yes, it really does. Maybe hold that up a little bit closer to the screen so you can zoom on the head there. Down a little bit, and there. And just hold steady for a moment. Yeah, everybody, mixed media is your friend. Look at this. So you kind of get that feather effect as those colors are coming into here. And what Tracy's doing is she's got a watercolor base, putting the colored pencils on top of it. And that's really cool. Thank you so much.
The last thing I did was make my blacks blacker and my whites whiter. And I really punched it out. Because I was like, oh, it's all just a wash. It all looks the same. Nothing stands out. And I'm like, nope. Let me go add some more dark and add some more light.
That contrast is what the darks feel dark because the lights are light, and the lights feel light because the darks are dark. And a lot of our paintings, we have a very narrow value range in them. The whole thing ends up looking kind of anemic, but you punch in your darks, you brighten your whites, and bing! That's powerful. That's really cool to see.
So it's going to go to my Uncle Vern.
Uncle Vern is going to dig that. I love it. Yeah. That's terrific.
He answers his phone, quack, quack. So he's really going to like it. Thank you so much.
Uncle Vern. Would anybody else like to share a picture of some journaling that you've been doing? Hey, Anne. Good to see you. Let's see what Anne Chadwick from Point Blue Conservation Science is up to. Spotlight you.
So I just did this while we were playing today, and I'm sitting outside because it's nice and warm in Sebastopol, 60 something. And I had a really strong shadow, which is gone now. I'm in the shade. Just put my jacket back on. But so yeah, it was kind of playing with the leaf and trying to get that curl. And that's just my notes from your leaf.
Right. Yes. And that shadow really lifts it off the page, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely helps. Makes it pop. And lettering, yay, acorn.
Oh, everybody, yeah, hold that. Let's see that again. Everybody, check out the O in oak here. Oh!
Oh, yeah. And then, hang on a second.
Deb Brady would be proud of you. Deb Brady would be really proud of you.
Yes. So then I did some photography last week, and this is at Schallenberger Marsh near Petaluma. Mm-hmm. And I got just such a weird reflection. So I thought I would play with that. And that's what I came up with. It almost looks like a skeleton or something. It was just so bizarre. And then did a little nature journaling to talk about what it eats and where it lives. And it's a mute swan. So that was pretty fun to...
Wait, hold that up a little bit longer. Raise it in the screen just a bit. So notice those little kind of, she's thinking on the page here. That's so cool. And then lower it down just a smidgy, right? And notice that she was able to leave the whites white on this swan. It is so easy to start shadowing all the way across this thing. But if you want, you need to leave those whites, as we saw in Tracy's picture, right? Having those whites punched in makes a huge difference. So here, Anne has resisted the temptation to put shadow and shading all the way across the neck, which makes it feel like a swan neck. That's really fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Filled a bunch of pages in my journal. I'll show you. I'll do a little share thing here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Check this bad boy out, Bob. Get this in the shade so you don't have the light. But yeah, Bobcat. Had a wonderful little experience with the Bobcat. And it was very cooperative, it was hanging out in a horse field for about 20 minutes. It never got the memo that it was supposed to be secretive. So I was able to do that on the Bobcat, and then went over to toned paper. And here's my toned paper Bobcat, where I got to put in the whites. That was really fun. And my daughter Amelia found a mermaid's purse. So that is the egg case of a skate. Skates and some sharks make what are called mermaid's purses, these things you find along the shore. I've never seen one of those before, but she found one of those. So that was really, really cool. So yeah, let's see. So yeah, this was over the holiday here, looking at bay trees, looking at tule elk, looking at sunsets, saw the green flash, and then more studying bay trees and the kind of rotten, hollowed out parts at their core. That was really fun. So I had a ball. So I've been busy, kind of burning up some territory. I've also discovered, you know how nice it is when you kind of finish a page in your nature journal and you get to turn the page, right? You turn the page, you're like, oh, like, wow, I just did a full page of nature journaling. Check it out, right? I've been using a journal that's a little bit smaller, so I get to turn the page more, and it's fun. So I'm getting these little hits of dopamine every time I do that. That's been a hoot. Let's see. Anybody else want to share? Kaylin, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey. Hi.
Hi there.
So I in here I was drawing a leaf that my dad had come and gotten for me. I don't know if you can see it. I drew with colored pencils.
Oh, yes. Hold it just a little bit more still there, adjacent to the page. Yes, very careful observations of the veins and the shape of that edge.
Uh-huh.
I really like this kind of observation. This is really patient, careful, precise observation. Love it.
Yeah, it took a while at staring at it, and then and then a bit ago for my class, there's an assignment to draw a tree, and I had drawn this, but I think it's too red. I think it turned out too red.
A little bit closer to the screen, if you would.
I think it got too red.
Ah. All right. So one thing you can do if you feel that it is a little bit too red. So was the actual tree more? It was parts of it were turning red, but what color would you say most of the tree was?
I kind of just went along and drew like just a tree. I couldn't actually find it. And all the trees around here are too like small, trimmed.
Okay. So here's the good news. When you say, like, I think it's too red, if you're doing one from your imagination, there are trees that are this red, and there are trees that are even redder than this. So in fall, you can in fall you can find trees that are as red as this or even more vibrant. So this is absolutely accurate as far as possible tree colors. That's really fun to do. I also like the different textures that you're showing in the canopy of the tree as opposed to the trunk of the tree. I kind of get a sense of, you really handled your pencils, your media in different ways in there, and that's really successful.
I don't have anything like watercolors that I can easily use, so I usually end up just using a color pencil, and sometimes it's limiting.
Where are you? What state are you in?
California.
You're here in California. Would you please ask your folks to shoot me an email when this class is over, and we'll would love to start a conversation about what sort of supplies you need to really help you get the effects that you want. Would you do that?
Yeah.
Would love that. So if they go to my website, johnmuirlaws.com, my email is there, or if you want it, it's just johnmuirlaws@gmail.com, and you can they can get a hold of me there.
Okay. Thanks.
Great. Hey, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Welcome.
All right. If anybody else would like to, Linda, really, check out these sea lions. Linda's been checking out sea lions here. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. Look, look
Okay,
at the
so
throat of that thing.
let me get it back so you can see it. Yeah. Okay, so last week I showed this, but it was penciled in. So, but the story continues because they are, singing every night across the street. So, and every time I drive around, I'm looking to see where they are at. But they don't, the places to pull off to actually draw them are not easy. So I'm going to other resources to get my drawings. But then during the doing of the resources, like the Native American influence around here is strong. So I decided to pull out one of my books and I found a seal like in a Native American style. So that was cool. And then one of the pictures was of that I found was exactly what they're doing, singing all night long. So, but then the other part of it is we buy salmon sometimes from local vendors. And one of the ladies was saying, oh yeah, do you want the bitten salmon? And I go, what's that mean? And she goes, oh, the sea lions have bitten it, so we can't sell it for full price. And then the other thing is there's that salmon's, sea lions, every once in a while, the orcas will come through and it's a favorite orca food. And so I just felt like I just needed to fill in with some of the things I knew, plus the previous, like watching your Wild Wonder stuff, it's really gotten me to thinking of like how to lay it out and make it tell a story. So here's my first, real story.
What a story. This is so much fun. I love those little ones just kind of whip it. You kind of get we're watching some underwater.
That was a video. That was a video. I watched video of divers who went to Victoria, one of the islands along Vancouver Island. It's a sea lion hangout. So the divers go up there, they go underwater, and the sea lions will come and like nip on them and play with them, like nip like a puppy. And so I would play it till I saw a good pose, and then I'd stop it and do a quick sketch. And I try to stay like this. These look way more refined than I really had started because I was doing it like more of a gesture sketch, but I wanted it when I come to see, sit on these, Zoom things, I wanted to show up so you could see what I was doing. So.
Oh, that is so much.
Thank you. Because the whole group, every time we get together, it's like very good information for me to jump to another level myself. And then I sit with my grandchildren and other people I know and share stuff. And so even though I'm not actually teaching right now, I feel like what you give me, I put on here and then I share. So it's so good. Like I'm so good. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for passing it on. This is absolutely delightful, and I love putting the carving down on the bottom.
Thank you.
That's such a cool idea, and the November songs, that sea lion just belting it out there is so much fun. And how playful that is, the way you put sea lions in there. I can see the level of the water, right?
Thank you.
And that's just, it is, this should be fun, right? The more that we do this.
To say how you have helped so much more, I wasn't going to do this thing. And then I decided it turned out to be kind of a warm up, because that sacrificial pancake, that getting kind of into your mind, it was so helpful to do something that was not really in like this stuff. It's more like I'm copying a contour drawing and just like doing another kind of part of my brain. And so it was hugely helpful to just play with this. And then, oh my gosh, it turned out okay.
That is so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. That's great.
Okay.
All right. let's see if there's any other journal pages that people wanted to show. If so, hey, Mary, we'd love to check that out. I'm going to spotlight you.
Hi.
Ooh.
I wanted to make this be a cautionary tale because I made this page. I did the leaves first. I had decided that they were dandelion leaves, and I did a whole page on dandelions, and then learned that they are not dandelions. So fortunately I have room at the top where I'm going to say these are not dandelion leaves.
Oh, that's a great way to handle it. Yeah. And I noticed that you're still smiling, which means you're taking the right approach to this. What we want to do is this is a place for, if we get wrapped around the axle about perfection and having everything be right, it's so much less fun. But if we use it as a learning, you could say, like, I thought these were dandelion leaves, but no, are they dock?
Yes, yeah,
they're
curly dock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but like, I thought this, and now I know this. And actually, one of the things that's powerful about keeping a nature journal is that it lets us make those sorts of changes in our brain. Because, like, I thought this, and then I had this experience, and now I think this. What research on kind of sort of human beings changing their minds has shown that human beings tend not to change their minds, even in the face of evidence. But when we are explicit with ourselves of, I used to believe this, and then I learned this, and now I've changed my mind on this thing, that allows those changes of mind that are based in evidence to stick with us. Otherwise, we tend to just go back to what we thought before. So have it be a place where you can celebrate making a mistake. And so I think this is awesome, because it is, first of all, it's really accurate observation. I can look at this and I can say, well, isn't that dog, right? And it's also a learning. There's learning in it. I thought this, then this, and now this, right? And it's a celebration of our neuroplasticity also.
It's funny, I spent 2 days painting this and then filled in the title and the Wikipedia information about dandelions, and I got to the lion's tooth, dent de lion, and I'd already known that, and I was like, wait a minute, there are no tooths on these leaves, they're curly. So I had to go back out and look at it again at the plant.
That is really fun. I also love your metadata. Everybody check out Mary's metadata. What's going on here? Isn't that cool?
Thank you.
So this is I love that you're also just sort of embracing the learning, and that keeps it fun. That keeps us coming back and doing more. If something like this happens to you and you find yourself like filled with angst and like, oh, I'm going to tear out the page, or whatever it is, like, then you gotta be kind to yourself and sort of use it as a just sort of being aware of kind of openness to, if we're not making mistakes on a regular basis, then we're not pushing ourselves, right? And so
I think my biggest challenge was, how can I fix this? I've already taken up the entire page talking about dandelions. So what I think I'm going to do is make a little flip out. I'm going to attach another little sheet over top of this and make it it reminds me of, and flip it up and say it reminds me of dandelions, but it's not.
Oh yeah, that's great. And you could also just add to the top where it says dandelion leaves, I thought these were, and then you're sort of showing the change in your mind, and also just be aware that those who identify plants when they're not in flower by vegetative parts get extra points for being really cool, right? Because like a lot of people will identify, they can identify the flowers, and when the flowers are gone, they're lost in the forest. And so, and you're looking at leaves and leaf shapes. I think that that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Oh, Tracy, we've got a leaf here.
This is from class today. And I tried to, like when we did animals in different positions, I tried to demonstrate the leaf flat and the leaf curved imposed on each other.
Mind blown. Oh, that's really fun. That is really, really fun.
You can almost feel the swirl. Like I feel the curl feeling.
Yes, absolutely.
Like you can almost feel the leaf over time. It started like this, and then wind and dry and changing sun or whatever, and it curled itself.
And also just graphically, it's a really interesting graphic thing. I'm sort of seeing, I'm kind of getting this sort of also kind of yin yang element from it. Sort of yin yang meets nature. That's really cool.
Forces balancing, like bringing in the light and the light lessening for winter, and it's like curling on itself. I mean, I don't know. Trees are my favorite. Leaves, trees, branches.
This is fun. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Lily had her birthday. We used a little, when I decorated her cake, we reinforced negative drawing. Whoops. There we go.
Oh, it keeps wanting to spin. But that's, oh, that's fun.
There. So.
I like it.
Art goes everywhere. Art takes you everywhere.
Oh, I see there's a question in the chat from Ann Chadwick asking if we're going to have a session on reindeer. Yes, on Christmas Eve, I'm still going to be in town here. If anybody wants to join us for the Christmas Eve session on reindeer, we're on. So let's see.
Kids there.
What?
I'll definitely have Lily and Leo there.
Oh, what fun. We'll make it fun. Santa hats are encouraged. Whatever you'd like to do to kind of get into the routine and the spirit of it, that will be a ton of fun. There is, let's see, the last... Anyway, the schedule, if you go on to johnmuirlaws.com, I can't remember what it is, but it is accurate. The times which we say we're going to have classes, that's the new schedule. That's when there will be some classes coming up. You can check those out there. I am going to be around through the end of the year holidays. And you can keep your nature journaling going all the way through that season, and it'll be a lot of fun. Thank you, folks, so much for joining us and being part of this beautiful and joyful community. And thank you all. I really look forward to seeing you again, and thank you for being here, everybody. It's now time to, on my end, I'm going to go make lunch. And folks, I just want to, I want to encourage you to, to think of what you might be able to do if you enjoy nature journaling, is there somebody else that you might want to inspire to start nature journaling themselves? And one way you can do that is by just sort of sharing your own in a COVID safe way. Share your own example, and can you do a social distance, nature journaling adventure together? You might be able to get together just sort of a small set of materials and put that in somebody else's hands and see what they can do with it. It is an amazing way, and just sort of and sort of know that you're going to be faced with this. They're going to be saying like, but I'm not an artist like you, right? I'm not, that's not in my comfort zone. And be ready for them, and just let them know it's not about that. It's about noticing and observing and sort of playfully engaging in a deeper way with this world around us, and help them take some of those first steps. So that's something to consider as a little mission. But we want to do this in a COVID safe way. Soon we will be out of this craziness, but in the meantime, we got to keep our social distancing. We've got to keep our masks going. We've got to be doing the things that keep ourselves and our community safe. Remember that your mask, when you put on a mask, part of it is about keeping you safe. But they actually end up being more effective at taking what is inside you and not putting that on other people. So when you're wearing a mask, it's a way of saying to everybody around you, I respect you and I'm here to take care of you. And if we're all doing that, then we're protected. So just remember, when we're putting on those masks, a small portion of it is for you, but it actually ends up being even more effective by keeping anything that you might have contracted away from people in your community. And we've got to take care of our community at this time. All right? You are not alone. You are not alone. We are still all here together. And we've gotten this far through this as a community, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to make it as a community. We've got to take care of each other. But just remember, you are not alone. And thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jack.
Hey, Chris, really good to see you.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye, my friends.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.